I give a project definitely a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
I'd recommend it highly to anybody because it's the best project. It helps build community capacity, and that's what it's there for, and that's what it did.
I just think the community capacity building project has really revitalized and brought life to the place.
The project has made a wonderful impact, I think a very positive one, and you can see it starting to spread in people's self-esteem, their leadership qualities, the attitudes.
The project they are talking about is a Chalker Place research initiative, born out of social work professor Ken Barder's research into current child protection practices.
I was able to visit agencies across the country and said to these agencies, here's what's currently happening in your systems. Like, there are difficulties, it's crisis-driven, it's reactive, staff are feeling disempowered, there doesn't seem to be too much public support, you're working in bureaucratic systems with all kinds of rigidities. Risk management, risk assessment seems to drive the system, and crises seems to drive the system. And I said, like, is this correct? And resoundingly, they said, yes, this is correct. And then I said to them in focus groups throughout the country, in 10 different sites, and I said, well, what about this concept of capacity building? Here's what it means in terms of inclusiveness, partnership, outreach, prevention, and so on. And here's what the principles attached to that would mean. Do you think that this could have merit in being applied in your systems? And resoundingly, they said again, yes.
A proposal to investigate community capacity building and child protection was developed. Initially, 6 partners formed the steering committee: the School of Social Work at Memorial University, the Eastern Region Integrated Health Authority, the Eastern School District, the Janeway Family Health Center, Daybreak Parent-Child Center, and the Brighter Futures Coalition of St. John's and District.
In terms of the goals of the research, we really wanted to determine if indeed by using community capacity building principles, would that make a difference in the lives of vulnerable children and families and communities. And that was kind of one of the critical goals. Another goal was to look at early intervention and prevention. And the third goal was to really build upon the community capacity building framework, like to see if in fact it does work. What really made this project go forward was then having a funder who shared our vision. And that funder, of course, being the Crime Prevention Strategy Partnership Program under the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Canada.
The next step was to implement the research goals. Karen Gray, a social worker with a background in child protection, was hired for a 3-year period as the community facilitator.
To me, community capacity building is creating a self-sufficiency in a group of people, whether it be a bigger community or a small neighbourhood, in order to promote themselves and to give themselves the best opportunities and increase their quality of life.
Chalker Place is a low-income, 93-unit housing development in the east end of St. John's. With 80 children under the age of 12 living there, Chalker Place was identified as an ideal location for the project.
Karen, I believe, went through Maureen Bethel, who runs the playgroup here with Daybreak, and contacted me and told me basically what she wanted, her ideas and stuff, and wanted to get involved with the community. And the committee at the time, we discussed it and we thought it was a great idea, so we said yes, we'd love to do it. We wanted to see the community centre grow. I had it in the back of my mind that you know, eventually we would expand, make the community centre bigger. I was hoping, like when Karen came on, that would get everybody around here get more involved, and we'd get help with volunteers and get more programs put into the centre and help to keep the programs running.
when there would be a planning meeting, the question was put to them, well, where do you want to see yourselves? What do you want to do? What are your needs? I'm not here as an authority figure, I'm here as a facilitator, and I will take whatever it is that you want to do, and we'll do what we have to do in order to get this, to see it through, to be successful. So it was a totally new language, I think, that they were hearing. But it just wasn't a language, it was followed up by, the actual activities. And they were involved from the get-go. No decision was being made without their input. And many times, no meetings there weren't any meetings happening unless they were set at the table as well. So it was, for the first year, I think the activity was more about getting them to feel comfortable with their new roles.
Marie White was the evaluator of the project, providing both an interim and a final evaluation.
I started working with Karen right at the beginning. It's important to be involved with a project like this from the beginning, because you have to as well gain the trust of the people who are here. They are going to be a very important component in your evaluation. You're going to need to be able to speaking to them all the way through, really. So they have to know you and trust you and recognize that when you speak to them, their information will be kept confidential.
Daybreak Parent-Child Center provides support services to parents and children.
Our playgroups are open to any of the families who have children birth to age 6 to come and be part of that. When they come to that opens up all of the other programs that we offer. So we would do parent nights where we would get together at the center, or slowly after a year and a half, the parents were offering their own homes, come over to our house. So we had pizza night and movie night in parents' homes. And they started to form that network, that sustainable friendship network that is so vital when you're dealing with parents who have small children.
Have a support person in labor, whoever that person is, whether it's your best friend.
The Brighter Futures Coalition runs family resource centers and prenatal programs.
Basically, we take women who are at high risk for poor pregnancy outcomes, get them involved in the program. We provide food supplements and lots of nutrition counseling. As well, we have a capacity building approach where volunteer resource moms from the community act as a mentor for these women.
After the first year, when we were able to assess what we had completed, the trust level that we had been able to attain, there was ongoing conversations around the viability of the community centre, the increase in its use. The growing interest from the outside was driving us to do more and more in terms of promoting this centre as an area where programs could be actually delivered.
The Salvation Army became involved with the Chalker Place project via my connection with Karen Gray and some other connections in the community that I have through my work. I had heard about this new community centre that was looking to make partnerships, and that's very much a part of my job. Some of the programs we've been offering through the Salvation Army at Chalker Place started with our Home with a Heart program, and this is a program for single moms, and it's a 12-week program that offers skill development in the area of building a routine into your day, how to clean and maintain your household, budgeting, parenting, self-care, and it goes right through to education and employment and linking people with the proper resources. And that was a super program. We had a great response from the community. We had 7 ladies enter that program, built great relationships with them. The ladies themselves identified a need for a homework club for their children. They've said, you've worked with us, now we need you to work with our children. And so that partnership continues to be today, and I think this is the 2nd year of the homework club. We have been working on a food bank. We felt it was necessary to make it more accessible to people, and we have one at Buckmaster Circle Community Centre and the other is at Chalker Place.
When Karen contacted me originally about the community building project that they were launching in Chalker, I was very intrigued because being involved in the neighborhood, living in the neighborhood myself originally, and knowing what's happening down there. It's a very large population, a very small area. My involvement in Chocolate Place has been somewhat assisting with organizational, meeting with some of the residents, some of the committees of residents, going through some of the issues. We've also offered some financial support to the groups for different initiatives within the community. And basically liaison back with our council and staff to make them aware of what's happening in the community so they understand that there's a need building here and that we'll have to have more involvement within the community as time goes along.
I became involved with that project through Karen Gray. When she had been in the community for some time, we had a conversation, and she was asking me about the things that I could bring to the community, and we chose a couple of education programs that might have been of interest to the community. One was an anti-bullying program, Strive. It's a program that was developed by the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary several years ago, and Strive stands for Students Taking Responsibility in Violence Education. It's a good anti-bullying message. And also we decided that it would be nice to bring in some education to the parents of the community around street drugs and the dangers of the ones that we're seeing on the streets of St. John's. So we took those two programs into the community, and very successful actually, had good turnout at both. All too often with police officers, the community itself will see us in a negative aspect. And so I think it's very important for us to be able to go into the community and build relationships through programming and sometimes just through being there and interacting with the people in the community. It's nice to be able to go in and have a place to go where you're just dropping in and you're welcome to go there, and the people in the community are not seeing you as a negative thing at that time. It's more positive interaction. And I think the more positive interaction we have, it'll cut down on the negatives, certainly. And it's relationship building.
The project was also able to provide support for community events and holidays, as well as several family fun days.
The other thing that we've been able to do is increase involvement by community members in their community. I remember the first time we were ever involved in the community elections. There might have been, 10 or 15 people participate, and the last elections that we went through, this community centre was full.
These elections come up now.
So the second year, it was more about continuing to request input from the community to look at where they want to go, and to look at services for children and for their families to increase, the safety factors and to increase the hope for children and their families to be successful and to be less crisis-oriented. It also gave us more time to be in the community to help model good behavior or good practices, particularly in parenting, to parents who might not know any other way of parenting than what they experience themselves.
The original and new partners have all noticed positive change over the term of the project.
We've slowly seen changes in attitude. We've slowly seen changes in their attachment, their interest in their community, and wanting it to be a better community, safer, cleaner. And that is due in large part of the work that Karen was doing. We could see it slowly starting to infiltrate into the attitudes of parents coming to our playgroup. And we saw it too when we would do parent nights, either a cooking night or a movie night, and the moms, for the most part it was moms, started to talk about how they could participate on the committee, or how they could approach to get fences put up that would be safer for their children, or to redirect the parking in the way that the parking is in Chocolate Place. So you see it slowly.
At Chocolate Place we've had lots of healthy babies being born, and the outcomes are quite well documented in the evaluations that we do. Certainly we see a lot of growth in terms of the resource moms from the community who are involved in the program as well. More often than not, they bring their self-esteem and skill sets to a different level and they move on with their life through employment or education or whatnot.
I was home for an hour in labour before I went to the hospital.
I've seen in Chocolate Place individuals who've come out of their shells, who've come out into the community, who've gotten involved and taken counseling programs, offering, where they can get involved in mentoring within the communities, young people who have now more interest in what's happening. Because of the units in Chalker Place with regards to the community center setup, there's been programs now being offered in there where internet access will be available for after-school programs that will help the young children advance their educational abilities. And you see the parents being very proud of the opportunities for the young people to have this, and that's just one very small area that, with some help and impact, we can certainly improve the quality of life in these communities.
The changes that I've noticed is more at the school level, where I'm also involved with the Bishop Field School, which is the elementary school that services Chalker Place area, and I'm on the school council. We've had several conversations around the table at the school council about the good things that are happening in Chalker Place, and there's been several comments made as to the change with regards to the volunteerism at the school by the parents of the area. I think it'd probably have a lot to do with the projects that are ongoing through the community centre itself.
The connectedness that they have now with other resources in the community has been a very relevant piece. I think they have increased their own confidence in linking with resources, and the community itself, I think now is able to do more of that connecting rather than relying on someone else to do it for them, and I think that's really important.
When the parents spoke to me about the impacts, they did talk about better relationships with their children, an understanding of how better to speak to them, how to deal with some of the conflict. For those whose children's issues were bigger and larger than just the family, they were connected to external resources which helped them to facilitate and sort of mediate conflict in their own houses. So the capacity that some of the service providers have brought into the community has really positively impacted the parents.
So was the project successful? Was community capacity built over the term of the project?
Now that we had Karen and the project here to help us and the committee and previous committees and the present committee, it'll help us grow bigger because we've had that help, and we know now we have our friendships, say, built up with all these people. Like, we know John Ottenheimer and our MHAs and all that. We know who we can turn to, and like the Salvation Army and Brighter Futures and stuff like that. So it helps bring more into our community by us already having our hands on these people, and we know who they are, then they can help us, and it works overall.
All right, off you go.
In terms of Daybreak's role, as far as we're concerned, we will be there, continue to be there with the playgroup, and hopefully offer other types of services or supports for parents. Decisions are always made on feedback from our parents and from caregivers that are involved. So as long as they're continuing to give us feedback and willing to work with us to provide parenting skills workshops or a playgroup or just a family fun day or fun afternoon, we'll be there to do that and continue with it.
Press the button. Press the button.
Our commitment to Chalker Place is ongoing now, and that program will remain. And there is a need in the area for the program, and the program is full right now. So we'll continue to offer that program, but the big thing is within the framework of the whole project about capacity building is that we've brought a program in that also has a capacity building approach. So the people who are actually mentoring the pregnant moms are getting a lot of new skills and experiences themselves, and those skills will remain grounded.
What I see from the city's point of view is we get involved more in programming and after-school type events, be it recreational, be it assistance with some educational, be it things where kids learn to play guitars. City St. John's has a very strong recreational program that we try to bring into the community rather than have the community come into us. I'd like to see Chalker Place move in that same direction.
The partnership that we've developed, we'd like to see that maintained and enhanced. I just think of the food bank, for instance. The food bank is only one piece of the puzzle. I think there's other things that we need to add to that to get people from needing food to a place where they're comfortable in their homes financially. Can we help them with budgeting? Could we be doing a community kitchen, which might be a more meaningful way of providing food for your family and yet having developing the skills of cooking and having some fellowship and socialization with other people and having fun while you're doing it, and then not having to access food bank services all the time. I think those are more meaningful ways that we can probably partner in the future.
We got 250 pins, and we got the Chocolate Place Community, we got the Chocolate Place Community Centre around in the right?
As a result, I believe, of not only their work, their hard work, and the support that this project has put behind the community leaders, they were empowered enough to see into the future that they were going to require a bigger centre, and lobbied the CEO of Newfoundland and Labrador Housing and asked if they could expand into the unit next door, and were told yes. And so now they have plans for the future in terms of building and growing the centre.
I'd like to see like an executive director here, whether it be 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day. I think if we could get a board of directors that would be like more or less involved more in the community centre with the executive director, then the committee, they can focus on the regular activities they do, like Easter and Halloween and their family day and Christmas and all that, whereas they haven't got to, spend a lot of their time worrying about what's, getting stuff into the centre and stuff, where you got a board of directors and an executive that can actually take care of that.
Having somebody there on staff, full-time, it gives a place to go, a place that's non-threatening, a place that, where if you just drop in, or if you have a program that you want to bring in, that would be the centre for that. Community centres work, there's no doubt about it.
I wasn't sure if you were in bed or not, so just text.
What about the initial research questions? Does a community capacity building approach really make a positive difference in the lives of parents and children?
The evidence clearly indicates that this community capacity building approach does work. It is a reasonable process for working with parents and children, and it does provide an alternative to the usual intervention services with which we are familiar. What I noticed at the end of this project, I think, which struck me most, was the impact that it had on those who were involved. I think it's important to recognize that a project like this is the beginning. It sets a foundation. You can't do community capacity building in 2 years, but what you can do is set a strength of foundation and a basis for change. When I spoke to parents who had been involved, they talk about the personal development, the leadership development, their ability to create relationships where before there was only conflict, the ability to compromise and work with people, and their ability and capacity and sense that we can do this now. We can go and link with partnerships. We can go and find the resource people. That it wasn't about a handout to them, it was about a support, that they are deserving of what is out there for them to access, and that there are ways and means to access it. I think when you listen to the parents and then have them talk about the impact on their children, and their young children in many cases, who have now alternatives to being out sort of hanging around outside, who can come in and participate in reading programs, who can come in and participate in homework programs. And again, while there may not have been all the children in the neighborhood coming, what you saw were increasing numbers of people participating as some of the initial skepticism wore off.
I think everybody in the community has benefited greatly from the project being here, and for them and their families and the community itself, because it's made our community centre a lot better place, and our community a lot better place to live in also, because our community now is, whereas before Chocolate Place was known as a place where you wouldn't want to put Chocolate Place on your resume, or you wouldn't want to be associated with Chocolate Place because, so to speak, pun intended, there was drug dealers and it was a hard crowd down there and the cops were always in there. But now it's not like that anymore. No, Chocolate Place is quiet and it's nice, and it's a nice place to live. It's a warm and welcome place to live, and we have a lot of association for new Canadians living here, so we've all come together as a community, right? So it's really good.
We believe that in order to properly protect children, we have to expand the interventions beyond the four walls of parenting. And that's what we did successfully in this project, because we see protection as a health issue. And being driven by it being a health issue, we also seen protection as only one determinant of health. The other determinants that we view as very important are the determinants of relationships for children, a sense of community for children, and a sense of hope and opportunity. And what we did in this project is that we emphasize the determinants of relationships, hope and opportunity, and a sense of community. And by emphasizing these three, then we also realize the fourth one of protecting kids.
Well, the kids is where you start. The kids are the start of it all. The kids are your community, and then work from there, right? You do it all for the children, and to try to benefit everybody, and not just one person, but benefit everybody in the best possible way, right? And make the place a better place to live.